All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, a Phil Heath story. Now, it's very rare that we have seen any type of physique update for Phil during his prep for his comeback Olympia this year in December. But we got this rare picture today, which we, again, rarely see from Phil. I saw this posted on the Buys and Tries Instagram page. They're a great bodybuilding page, by the way. I get a lot of stuff off of there. And they posted this photo of Phil with the caption, AJ Kelly Robert posted this picture of seven-time Mr. Olympia Phil Heath earlier today. Apparently this picture was taken about a month ago, and because we're about 7 weeks out from the Olympia right now, that means that this picture was taken just over 11 weeks out from the Olympia. So somewhere around mid to late September is apparently when this photo is from, according to Buys and Tries and AJ Kelly Robert, who I believe is a friend of Phil Heath. So this is really the first and only major physique update we've seen of Phil relatively close to the Olympia. Now, again, I've said this before, but I think a lot of what we're going to see of Phil is going to be pictures like this if we see anything else of Phil, because obviously this is his strongest, the strongest body parts that he's showing. His arms, his shoulders, his forearms, his chest. He looks very round and full, and I think he will continue to show pictures, if he shows any pictures at all, again, as we get closer to the Olympia. It's always going to be probably tank top shots. You're probably not going to see any shirtless pictures of Phil. Maybe you'll see a back shot or a leg shot. I think last year, right before the Olympia, he posted like a shot of his hamstrings and glutes of how lean he was going into that show. Not last year, 2018 rather, his last Olympia appearance. But you didn't see any, like front double biceps or abs and thighs or anything like that. So for the most part, he does look like he's in really good shape. He looks like he's really full. He looks like he's lean. Again, if this was 11 weeks out, he's in really good shape, really vascular, really full, of course, because he's 11 weeks out. But, Phil's going to be a tough one to beat. Phil's coming back. If he wins this year, it's going to be his 8th Olympia title. I'm sure there's a lot of drive within Phil to get that number 8 because that's like the magical number. That's the Ronnie Coleman number. That's the Lee Haney number. That's the number that will make Phil technically a more successful bodybuilder than Arnold Schwarzenegger was. Currently, he's tied with Arnold for 7 Mr. Olympia titles. And 8 is just that magic number. Now, to be fair, I wanted to go over to Brandon Curry's page. And again, if this picture was taken at 11 weeks out, this would be like mid to late September. So if you go over to Brandon Curry's page, and Brandon obviously is the current reigning defending Mr. Olympia. So again, if you go to Brandon's page, you're going to want to be looking for mid to late September if this was around 11 weeks out to compare how Phil is looking to how he's looking. There's actually a photo of Brandon that's extremely similar to this photo of Phil, of Brandon standing relaxed in the gym, and you can kind of see the same qualities of Brandon that Phil was showing off in his picture. Obviously, one of Brandon's strong points, too, is the roundness and fullness in his arms. Phil is a little bit more vascular in that picture and maybe holding a little bit less water, but again, at 11 weeks out, that really doesn't matter a whole lot, and it's not necessarily an indicator of how someone's going to look on stage. But overall, I think this Brandon and Phil battle is going to be a much closer battle than people think, in a very competitive battle, because again, I've said this before, they both have a lot of similarities in the fact that their arms are their strong point, their roundness and fullness is their strong point. But I think Brandon's strong point, where it comes in contrast to Phil, is the small waist, number 1, the posing, number 2, although Phil doesn't have bad posing, but I think Brandon looks a little bit better in some of the poses because of the small waist and the tight midsection and the abs. And then number 3, the width. Brandon presents this illusion of this crazy, he is wide, but he also presents this illusion of this crazy wide upper body because of the size that he does have, and then the smallness of his waist. It creates this insane illusion that Phil doesn't necessarily have, but to Phil's credit, like if you look back at Phil's picture, he's got this illusion of being like a balloon animal, and I don't mean that as an insult, I mean that as a compliment. The way his physique looks, his roundness and fullness just looks insane in any picture, on any stage. He's just got that going for him. So Phil versus Brandon this year is going to be an interesting battle. Let me know in the comment section below, who do you guys have, Brandon or Phil? Comment down below. Now, next up in the news, Larry Wheels versus Schoolboy. Everybody has been waiting for this arm wrestling match for, I think, almost a year now. They've been talking about this, or a little bit under a year. They've been talking about this big match between Larry and Schoolboy. Now, it was interesting. He has the full clip up on his YouTube channel if you want to go check that out. Definitely go check out that video. It was a great video. And he also posted these clips on his Instagram page, just a few clips from the matchup. Now, I don't want to spoil it, but I will say Larry did win 2, technically. He did win a couple against Schoolboy, but for the most part, Schoolboy was pretty dominant in the beginning, especially with the left hand. But you guys will have to watch the full video on Larry's channel to check that out. But it was definitely a pretty good battle. And Schoolboy, he's just insanely impressive. I mean, he doesn't look like he would be as strong as he is. I mean, he's a pretty tall guy. He's like 6'5", so he's kind of menacing in that regard. But, you know, compared to Larry physique-wise, he doesn't look like he would beat Larry in an arm wrestling match. But he did beat Larry more times than not, especially with that left hand. So that was definitely a cool video. You should definitely go check that out. Now, next up in the news, we have a Roelly Winklaar physique update. Now, it's been pretty rare this year that we've seen a Roelly physique update. Typically, he's been a little bit more revealing and a little bit more, forward with posting a lot of magic mirror pictures, posting these crazy updates. But so far, even up to 7 weeks out, we haven't seen a whole lot from Roelly. Except for this picture recently where you can see, again, kind of similar to Phil, obviously Roelly's strongest point is probably his triceps, so he's showing off a little bit of that freak factor that he's got that he's going to be carrying into this year's Mr. Olympia. And you can tell it's relatively recent because he is wearing a mask in that picture, so we know it's not from a prior year. So it's from some point during his Olympia prep, but we don't know if it's an old picture from a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, or maybe it was taken today. But this is the most recent physique update that I've seen Roelly post on his Instagram. And if you're talking about arms at the Olympia, especially with Brandon and Phil, you've got to have Roelly in that conversation because Roelly just might have some of the best arms in the history of bodybuilding. Now, speaking of the Olympia lineup, you can't leave out Dexter Jackson, who is another Mr. Olympia winner that is going to be in that lineup. Dexter, of course, won the 2008 Mr. Olympia. Dexter Jackson posted a training video recently. We haven't seen too many physique updates. I don't think we've seen any physique updates so far from Dexter in terms of like an actual posing video or a picture of him posing at any point during his prep for the 2020 Mr. Olympia. But we did see this video of him doing some dumbbell presses with Brad Rowe. So we get kind of a glimpse of how Dexter is looking, but nothing too crazy. And now we're really getting into crunch time here. This is going to be kind of the season of physique updates. We're getting kind of close to that 6-week out mark from the Olympia, which is in mid-December of 2020. And we're getting to that point where around 6 weeks out, you're going to start to see a lot of updates from a lot of athletes. And, of course, there's a lot of qualified competitors. So you're going to start seeing more and more. As we get closer to the Olympia, it starts to heat up really fast in terms of, you know, what we get to talk about because we get a lot of physique updates typically around that 6-week and closer mark. So definitely subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already because there's going to be a lot to talk about in the coming weeks as we get closer to the Olympia. Now, of course, the final story that I have for you guys today is the latest Calum von Moger physique update. Of course, a ton of you guys have sent this to me. Calum obviously is getting ready for his return to the classic physique stage. I believe right now he's a little over 2 weeks out, close to 3 weeks out from his next bodybuilding show, and everybody is kind of wondering how the legs are going to look on stage, how his overall physique is going to look on stage after all the injuries, all the setbacks that he's had, all the size that he lost and then tried to put back on. And my takeaway from these physique updates, this one in particular, is a couple things. Number one, he's got a brand new tattoo. A full sleeve basically covers his entire arm. That might be a negative in terms of taking away from some of the definition. It might be distracting. Number two is the fact that he always puts his good leg forward, and the other one is always a little bit behind, and you can't really tell how it's looking. So the fact that he continues to do that might mean there is still a little bit of a disparity or perhaps a disproportionality between the legs that he doesn't want you to see. But the good part of this, he looks like he's in really good shape. A lot of vascularity all throughout his chest, his upper body. He looks dry here. He looks lean here. His legs, even though they look downsized, are very vascular. But that's to be expected because, again, I think he is like 2 weeks out right now. So we will be seeing Calum step on stage relatively soon, and we're going to have that to talk about, I think, in about 2 weeks. So we're going to see how he does. But best of luck to Calum. Of course, best of luck to Phil, Brandon, Roelly, Dexter, and everybody that is competing at the 2020 Mr. Olympia. I could not be more excited. And that is going to wrap it up for today's video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed yet already. We are now only 15,000 subscribers away from that 1 million subscriber milestone, so make sure you hit subscribe. And we're getting there faster and faster every day. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.